in Central Mass, near Hudson, Framingham area. It's Metro West area. And I come from a family of 10 brothers and sisters. So we have a big family. And
I forgot, were you the oldest or the youngest?
Second youngest.
Second youngest.
Second youngest. And you'll be seeing a lot of my folks down here, my brothers and sisters down here soon.
Yeah.
Jim will think there's probably 10 of me soon. But it was a great experience. I loved the town I grew up in. You know what, Arnie? But it's not home really anymore. Marshfield is home. The South Shore is home. It's an amazing thing. When I go back to Marlboro now, and it's not that far away, it's like a whole other world. I mean, this is it for me. This is where I am, and this is, you know, because a lot of people, they consider me like a townie, as someone that's been here his whole life. And there's something I have to say, no, I haven't been. I've been here 13 years. But like I said, I'm proud that I'm here. We came down, my wife grew up in Norwell, and that's what brought me down here. It brought me to the South Shore because her parents lived in Norwell, and thank goodness we did. And what I did was I went to Marlboro High School, and then I went to culinary art school, Johnson & Wales. It's now a university. It used to be Johnson & Wales College. So I went to culinary art school to be a chef. And I had my own business. I had my own catering business for 3 or 4 years, and when I was in my young 20s. So it kind of was too early to actually have my own thing, to be honest with you. But it was a learning experience too, because going to school to be a chef and then having my own business, I kind of learned some lessons the hard way. And at that point, when I was that young too, I was also a city councilor in my hometown. So I did have some government experience. I was a city councilor for 4 years, and there again, it was a learning experience to do that at a young age. But you know, if I look back at it now, I may have been too young to do that, to be honest with you. But I did some good things too. I can't say that I regret it, because I learned from it.
Do you do the cooking now at home?
No, my wife does most of the cooking. She's very good. She's a better cook than me.
Yeah.
I was good at it. I was a good chef, basically. And I could work at a restaurant. And I was fast, and but it was all kind of. I always wanted my own business. I always wanted my own restaurant. And when I was in my young 20s, I wanted my own big restaurant. And everybody does in the business. They all want their own thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? I look back at it and I say, thank goodness I didn't get a chance to open my own place, because I always had these big dreams. But a lot of times when you have the big dreams, you fall down hard too.
Yeah.
And I had my own little catering business, so I didn't really, I did it for a while. I didn't really lose any money, but I didn't really make a lot of money either. And then my father actually had a landscaping business, so I went and worked for him for a while. Did landscaping with my dad, which I'm glad I did. I really got to know my dad pretty well. And then I worked for friends of mine who had a sign company, and that's what got me in the sign business. And I did that for 5-6 years with them. I helped run their business. And it taught me all about the sign business. And that's how I got into the sign business, making signs. Yep. And now I'm here.
Oh, and then we have your sign right outside the studio here.
Yes, yes.
Marshfield Community Television.
I thank you for that. I thank you guys for that. And but that's kind of what brought me here. My wife grew up in Norwell, and like I said, I thank my lucky stars that we're down here. And this is home for me. I wouldn't be anywhere else right now.
Let's go back to what a counselor does. Is that like being a selectman?
It's like that, but the difference between Marlboro and Marshfield, they're really, sometimes I think they're similar, because I look back and they're similar, same types of people. But Marlboro is a city. So we had a mayor and a city council. We had 11 city councilors. And actually back then, in my young 20s, I actually got paid $10,000 a year on it, which was actually for and actually was pretty a good little pay for me, because I had my other job going. So, but we had 11 of us. I think there was seven ward councilors and 4 at-large councilors, and so there was more of us to do the work, and then there was the mayor, and that was the big difference. So yes, it's like a selectman, but there was more of us to work and do the work and do the different committees. And that's one of the things when I came to Marshfield, and it's been something I've been trying to push, and I'll still push it. When I'm state representative, I'm still going to push to go to 5 selectmen. Marshfield needs 5 selectmen. We desperately need a couple more selectmen for a number of reasons. I won't get into too much of it, but that'll be one of the things I really push. And because I've said that. I said once I get into town, I'm not going to stop doing things locally. I'm not going to stop getting involved with things locally, because I think it's important for the state, for the next state rep, to be very vocal on some things that are going to happen here. Well,
I do think Frank Hines was very active in the community too. Wasn't always vocal, but you always knew Frank was there. You gave him a call, he'd answer it, he'd come down and talk with you.
Well, and you're right. And some state reps do it differently. My brother was a state rep and served with Frank Hines. My brother was a state rep for 6 years, state representative in Marlboro, in the Marlboro area. And he did something similar to Frank. He really was a constituent guy. He did all his constituent stuff. But he didn't always get involved in the local things. And one of the things that I think I'm really going to be different is I will, because you know me, I've been involved in a lot of things, and I've stood up. And that's one of the things I tell people. I'm not going to change who I am. I am going to stand up because we know there's some things coming down the pike here where we're going to have a voice, and a strong voice, and say, look, folks, we may not be able to do this right now. We may not be able to afford what we really want to do. We might have to think of something else, think out of the box. And that's going to be important for the future of Marshfield and Scituate. Both towns are going to need someone like that, who's not afraid to stand up.
You definitely have the energy to do it, that's for sure.
Well, thank you. This is going quick, Artie. We don't have a lot of time.
No, I know we don't. All right. Well, then let's get on to a few other things. When you become, and I want to ask you about the three questions here eventually too, but let's talk about some of the things that you see that's going on in the state or the state legislature and what you would like to make different.
Well, one of the big things coming up, we know that there's a budget shortfall. We know there's going to be some major cuts, but one of the things that I've been saying and going around saying is, look, first of all, we need to look at all the waste that's happening and what's happening in the state government. First, that's what we need to do. Anything that we can cut by as far as waste, we have to do right away. And one of the things I noticed recently is actually, I heard it on WATD, Ed Perry was talking about it, was our licenses, Arnie, and I'll show you my license. It's not really, maybe these guys can take a look at it.
Great picture.
Right. But the licenses, the driver's licenses in town are not that old. Right. They're maybe 3 or 4 years old, these new licenses that we have. Now, what's going on, I guess the governor basically approved $32 million to have a new license made. $32 million. Now, that, to me, is something we should not be doing right now. Yeah, maybe 10 years from now, because these licenses are not that old. I think John has one that's he still has one of the old ones. So that's not something we should be doing right now. Maybe they say we have to because of national security, but look, we can't do things like that right now. So that's one example of what we have to do right away to show the people we respect what's going on. Another one is the lottery. The lottery right now, and I'm just going to, those are two examples. The lottery has a sponsorship program and an advertising budget. And in the sponsorships, they sponsor the Red Sox, the Patriots, and the Celtics, and the Bruins. But what they do is they have banners and stuff at the games. Now, they pay for that. They're paying the Red Sox to do that. To me, that's waste. It's over $10 million that they spend on that, Arnie. And that money from the lottery is all supposed to come back to the local aid money. It's very important because if you and somebody might just say, okay, that's 10 million, that's 32 million, but if you go from department to department and everywhere you can find 10 million, 20 million, 5 million, it all adds up. I'm not going to say it adds up to $1 billion, but it's going to be close. And that's what I think we have to do first. Before you talk about anything else, I think you got to talk and show the people that we really respect their money and them. And that's very important.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, I could give example after example, but I don't really want to bore everybody. But those are some of the things that we have to do.
That would be step one. Right. All right. What are some of the other things that you might then go beyond that you like to, that's happening now?
Well, right. Well, the 40B thing is something that we have to deal with in Marshfield, in Scituate, in the whole South Shore, and actually all of Massachusetts. We got to repeal it, not reform it, repeal it. That has to go away, and the control has to come back to the local communities. We have to do that. There's no doubt about it, because then the local communities can decide whether or not they want exclusionary zoning, mandatory exclusionary zoning, so that they can say to a developer, if you're going to come into town, you have to put 10%, 15% affordable. It should be up to the local communities, and it has to happen. And it doesn't really matter if it takes 10 times to file a bill, or if it takes a referendum to repeal it. You have to do it, and it's something that has to be done. And local aid, I know obviously that's going to be a huge issue, Ronnie, a huge issue of how we get as much local aid, especially now. And that's why I brought up the lottery thing, because it's only $10 million, but lottery money was supposed to all come back to local aid. Now, there's some talk about casinos. That's one way where we can maybe some of that money that comes when we do the casinos, some of that money obviously should come back to local aid money, because it's going to be huge. If we have that much of a deficit, we're going to be losing local aid, and we have to make up for that because we depend on it. Marshfield, Scituate, we absolutely have to have that local aid money. Right. And so that's going to be one of the biggest things to fight for that local aid money.
Well, again, haven't I been reading, though, that the casinos in Connecticut and so forth are losing money and laying off people and so forth, and that kind of squashes...
I know. Well, that's the thing. No? So that's why you have to be careful. If we do them, you probably can only get away with doing one or two. And you can't be saying, okay, we're